Yeah, okay. You didn't even gotta call Uber girl.
Wait a minute, what kind of lawyer are you? Because I would have needed you right. My knee is hurting. Okay? Oh yeah, then that would have been perfect.
Here we go. Y'all know what time it is if you're on the East Coast. It is right now 8:05, and we're over here in Minneapolis enjoying ourselves. I got some special guests with me, featuring, of course, I got features all the time, honey, because they gotta be fabulous and great. So, welcome. This is Keep Living. I'm your host, the ethical evangelist. Of course, as you probably know, Jay Exodus Hooper. So wonderful to have all of you. Come on. I want you to click some likes and do some shares. Make sure that you get somebody in the room that you love, and so they can share in this good Freedom Folk magic. Hey, Lana, good to see you. Soiree, love you. Well, let's maximize this so we can see everybody.
I've never tried to do like you won't be able to read.
I have to get dry and stuff.
There we go.
Yes, the people that older people.
We still making some adjustments because we out here on this beautiful balcony with a beautiful background of many.
Minneapolis, y'all, this is my home. Like, share, follow. You know the deal.
So, look, check this out. I've got with me, of course, our stunning, our wonderful Lana showing up in the space with some beautiful brilliance and Black excellence. All right, and we have with us today also the wonderful, the prolific Dr. Anansi Wilson joining us. Minneapolis is in the house, and this is the housewarming of your life. So we're going to start off with that. It's so good to see all of you. Please, like I said, click like and share. Share it with somebody, tag somebody's name that's going to need this right now. This is going to be a very interesting, of course, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary conversation.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt Jay real quick because I know that when you all seen the intro, it said with Tiana, but he can't help himself. So I would just like to say that we are having a wonderful housewarming so far in the great city of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah.
I just want to say welcome.
You are the native. Come on.
So I just want to say this is my home. I love it here. I was not born here, but I was raised here. So y'all know the difference. So I claim it all the same. If you want to share a little bit kind of about where you come from and how you ended up here.
Yeah, Dr. Anansi Wilson.
I'm sorry, can you say that a little slower? Because, it's like people like me who like, what was that? I didn't hear that right.
Yes, okay, Dr. Anansi Wilson, originally from Kansas City, Kansas, home in the Midwest, home of the best barbecue.
Come on.
Coming here by way of Atlanta. Before that, UT Austin, where I just got my PhD, in Howard for law school. And I came here to teach constitutional law, criminal law, Black Lives Matter in the law, race law, sexuality, critical race theory, all the things that have to do with slavery and its impact on laws and its afterlives in our current days, particularly with policing. Yes.
Don't make me throw myself over the balcony now.
I'm here with two scholars, okay? I am blessed and I am highly favored with my favorite. Okay? So I am very appreciative. I feel very well rounded. As you all know, that this is awesome for me. And two Black men, I think that really makes a difference when we're talking about PhDs in education, and you both teach, So I think that is very important for our community and for people to see that this is actually happening. Like it's not something that we hear about and people we don't know.
Right.
Yeah. It's great that when we think about especially being, queer Black folk and that positioning, when we think about how we show up in the academy, how we show up to also just our community, right? To constantly break down the monolith or basically kind of come out of our narrow-minded view of what is Blackness and how should it perform, how should it be in the world. I think this, I mean, we're even on this show, even though, yes, she's being circled by this, like there's also, can I just give props? It doesn't matter if you don't have these levels of education.
Right.
One of the most also incredible factors is much of my work, I can say and speak for myself, has been nurtured by Black women. So to even have you on this show, that is an intrinsic knowing that doesn't happen often. And that has in many ways cultivated us, I would assume, to be in the spaces that we're in, because if it wasn't for my mother, if it wasn't for my life partner, if it wasn't for my grandmama, if it wasn't for people like you, who in many ways, Black women do what they do best, cultivate. And so they add to that. So I just want to, salute you too, because this is not done,
thank you.
And, in absence of Black women and how we in many ways need to show up as well.
Yeah, I think there's just so many layers to it, right? And I think that Black women and Black queer folk, not that Black queer folk are also women. Right?
Come on.
We have such an intersectional and cyclical relationship. Oftentimes it's maybe not our mothers, the mother might be a little homophobic child. Oftentimes it's your auntie or someone in the community that is the first person to have a little Black queer boy. No, we know he's queer yet, or they're queer yet. Or Z or they are queer yet, right? They don't even have a gender. But oftentimes it is that woman in the community that says, "You okay, baby?
Right.
So, right. I know your dad did this said about you playing this doll or not wanting to play the sport, just wanting to read a book, but you're okay. And you keep being you." And as we grow older, we also relieve Black women oftentimes of that responsibility to be the one that carries everyone's emotions. We hold their hand and we also carry the bag. Right? So I think it's important to think about how we support each other from the womb to the tomb. And that's something that's not often remarked upon.
We were at Barnes & Noble this past week, and I was getting educated on some new reading, which I'm like super excited about. I have a lot of great reads that I'm interested in. One is about pleasure. We'll get to that.
Come on, pleasure. We can talk about pleasure today if we want to.
I have a couple things that I really want to point out. So one, we'll talk about pleasure later because I'm not ready to get hot.
My mother Janet said it was a pleasure principle. So
that is what's been our main thing. I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, that's my main thing, baby.
And we came across this children's book, and we were reading it, and I mean we were kind of just browsing, and Jay told me that him and Storey like to kind of read children's books, and I was like, that's interesting, because I'm all about pictures in books. I don't care how advanced. If I see some pictures, the book that I got, that pleasure book, has pictures. I was like, oh, there's pictures in here.
Oh, it's pictures.
Yes. So it was that one about the little boy who wanted to dress like his mom. Right? You remember?
That was a great book.
And how the story started was he went into his parents' closet and he watched how his dad get dressed every single morning. And he tried on his dad's clothes, and they were too big and just sloppy all on him. And then he was he thought about how his mom gets dressed every day. And then he went in his mom's closet and tried on her clothes. And they fit. And he was like, okay, this fits me. This is what I like. I feel comfortable. But then he went into, it was interesting.
Yeah.
And
very,
then
very, very good.
He went into her jewelry, which he knew how to put on. But then he was confused as to how to put on lipstick. And he put the lipstick on his face as if it was a mask. He didn't know what to do with it. And then his parents walked in and caught him. And it was as if he wasn't sure how they were going to react. But the whole entire family put on makeup and dressed up to make him feel comfortable. And we just up in there about to cry oh my God.
Yeah, surely did. Yeah, it was very good, and I really appreciated that the book didn't necessarily just push on the idea of gender expression, but in many ways pushed on the framework of also this kind of creative process that we need to be in many ways constantly reimagine our own experience in the world, and that we have the agency to do that. And here is this child has this agency to do it, and at the same time. The parents, the guardians come in to really hold that space for them to feel like I am comfortable in this, and it didn't insinuate anything beyond that.
Yes,
it was just here it is.
Parenting. How strange.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I rarely quote this person, but RuPaul did say it best. You're born naked and everything else is drag.
Right.
Right. And if we really talked about like makeup and clothes, everything that we put on our body, we're really putting like dead plants on our body.
Mm-hmm.
Let's break this down to be very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And people are dying over
Talk
it.
to them.
Over it. You know, that's really crazy to me. But if we really took that concept in reality that like your body is what matters,
Mm-hmm.
the body itself is not an apology.
Right.
The body is the reason,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
that you are here today.
Exactly.
And if we really had care for each and every person's bodies,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't be talking about
Right.
that type of violence.
Right.
Right, because your body deserves to be here, not homeless in the street.
Right.
Your body deserves to exhibit and experience pleasure and love in the way that the languages that it knows how.
Right.
Where would we be?
You know what? I find that really fascinating that you say that, and it takes a lot for me to hear too, because I hear this all the time. Like I am constantly hearing this, and it is really like refreshing to hear from someone else. Because when you see people, or you know, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want. You don't think like that when you have that method of thinking. Like, no, this is the same person. Like, I don't care, you know. And you're willing to help more and be more attentive
That's
to
right.
different individuals,
That's right.
no matter what. When you have that way of thinking,
Because it could be you, man.
exactly. Okay, so what's
Baby.
can I get $5? I'm on the street.
If
You
you're black
could be,
today, you could.
yes.
It don't matter how much money you make today.
Exactly.
On tomorrow, white
You
supremacy
could.
might get a hold to you.
You better talk. Listen, you knew what you was doing coming on here today. I said I was taking over. I didn't say you take over.
I was took in.
Look, I called in.
here.
I'm like, just stay with me today. Stay
I'm
with
over
me.
here. I'm packing my U-Haul, minding my business. Welcome to my balcony, y'all. It's
Right.
a beautiful view.
Look, let me tell you something. It was no joke. I was like, oh, you're in town. Oh, what are you doing here? I've been following you on Facebook. What are you doing here? And this, let me tell you something. I don't know. I pay attention to people on my Facebook very, very closely.
See,
They become community in ways
No, that's true.
that I try to, in many ways, cultivate and make sure that I'm aware of. Now, I get that everybody dresses up their social media in most ways, but I do try to be proactive and also try to come in with a ministerial lens or pastoral lens around being present, even if it's Facebook, because I can see. Look, I'm a person where I understand performance.
Okay, now.
Don't get me started. But go ahead.
Because we can
I
choose
do.
it up.
Look,
Okay.
don't even get me started. Carry on.
Look,
Someone play me some Janet.
Alexa,
play the Velvet Rope.
Okay, right, and so one of the things is like, you know, it was really good to know that you had made it here, and I was like, well, what are you doing here? And I'm here for a short period of time, but when someone picks up and leaves,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna correct you real quick. You're not here for a short period of time ever. Okay? Because you're in my heart.
come on,
You here
come
all
on.
the time.
Thank you,
Right
thank you.
now.
See,
Right?
look,
You're just a visitor. But you here all the time.
Affirmations.
All the time.
You're a
This is
visitor,
where you
not a
live.
stranger, honey.
Thank you.
come on, be beloved, be beloved community with me. Look, come on today.
Yeah.
This is why we do this show.
Yeah.
But it's so important because then I was like, you know, you started unpacking. You like, oh, I'm unpacking today. I've got to get ready. And I literally, I think since 12,
Yeah.
I've been hanging out,
Yeah.
having the chance to engage with you,
Yeah.
talk with you, unpack, you know, bring some things into the house.
So we done went to the office.
We didn't went to the office. We didn't went to the job. Okay. We didn't got badges today.
You just know you're gonna be all over when you come in. You're like, oh no, I'm going to bed.
I'm going.
Yeah.
Look, I'm either going to be at Osberg or what
Right.
is it? Mitchell Hillman.
Mitchell
Hamlin. Yes, I'm gonna be out there. So
Hamlin.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Look. So many. Look, y'all are in for a treat because I can tell you right now, these two are stunning to be here. So I'm really happy to see the work that like this is honestly for me. This is possibility.
Mm-hmm.
This is Black possibility. This is what happens when we do decide to join together and really have a mission to not only create conversations, but, you know, as I've often said, I want this show to generate and charge people to make real change with culture care. This is a culture care show. This is really what this is about. And so here it is. We've got, you know, we've had that happening. And I want to go back to this idea of the body because that's something that I was thinking about today. So today I've been running and I've been trying to jog and my knee has been popping every once in a while. because I haven't done it in such a while. I've been, goodness gracious, writing and carrying on, but my knee has been popping, and I was like, oh, this is not what I'm trying to do. I'm getting old, and so I wanted to try to do something, and I never felt like this with my body, but it was the first time that I really felt like my body would give out on me. Mm-hmm. And that was the most uncomfortable feeling.
Trey just scared me half to death.
Right?
Because, wait a minute, I live here. You gonna give out on me?
Right.
What am I supposed to do?
Right? I know. That's exactly what I had. And I was particularly going to do curl-ups, but I was going to hang so I could get rid of the tension on my back a bit. So I was going to hang from the rail and then fall back. My body and the level of fear that I had of it, even just thinking that my knee would not, or my legs were not strong enough to lock, just on the rail, brought so much anxiety of like, what if I fall? What if it gives out? What if I can't pull myself back up? What if my core is not strong enough? And I began to think about this regarding how we come to each other, right? That in many ways, like, there's something about the insecurity of the body, but there's also something about how we experience just elements of the body. Like if I think about y'all as being elements of my body to support and hold me, bring me on, you know, like it's encouraging to do this show, right? When you got 3 and 4 people. It's hard to do it when you're one, right? Yeah. But it's a part of the body process. And I was also just thinking about like, wow, what is it? How do we also think about ourselves in relationship as our body being in relationship with others, but are also thinking about our bodies giving out on us, and when we also give out on others, or possibly people giving out on us. Yeah. Right? Yeah. As if we think about ourselves as a collective unit in this world, and how in many ways does Black possibility work through that?
Yeah, I think about it in kind of like 4 steps, and I kind of like blend the kind of notion like Audre Lorde's uses of the erotic, right?
Yes.
So listening to your body's navigation is this one that says, this is good for me, this is bad for me, and I just know what I know because I can feel it.
Right. I can feel it. Yes, I can feel it.
Right, that discernment. That's you know, but then there's the other, like this essay by James Baldwin, The Creative Process. And then this essay I wrote called Further Blackness on Being Outside of Law. And it talks about this kind of idea that, you know, we're doing one of 3 things, or one of 4 things. We're either witnessing, right? So I'm witnessing your human right now in this moment. Everything that you've said about yourself, I'm witnessing, I'm the record.
Right.
It's being said and you have existed. I'm the living record of you.
Right.
Because we chose to share space. Testimony, right? We come onto this show, this podcast, this IG Live. We're testifying the reality of Black lives that not only we've lived, but those around us have lived. Right. And we're creating a public record. Right. But not only that, a public notation of the possibilities that might come next. Right. Right. And then there's also refusal. Right. Refusing the conditions of white supremacy, of cis heterosexism, of homophobia, right? Of all these different types of ills in society. And so the last part is communion. Right. So now that we've kind of outpoured ourselves into each other, or into the community, or into our workplace, we come back together and we rebuild strength. Right. We rebuild vision. We rebuild focus and joy, right? In our love and our care practice and our critical love ethics, right? So I think that's kind of like a 4-part dance. Like all this, I think, encompasses not just this notion of the body that you're talking about, but the functions of the body and the ways in which our ecological systems of care, right, can replenish the body itself. Yeah.
So I agree with a lot of that, but I disagree on the cultural love aspect. One, because a lot of people don't really know love in our community today.
Well, everyone's not in community with me.
Well, right, but I'm like, if you think about generic community, is what I'll call it. So community within Black individuals, people of color, who are supposed to be in community with you, right? Who are supposed to be like-minded like you, who are supposed to be doing the work that you're doing, who are supposed to be community loving like you. But you know, I think that when we think of love, the term is so overused that we forget the actual value of it, right? So going back to what you're saying, in terms of taking care of yourself with the community, I think about it as a whole, because one, you got to think about what you were doing previously. Right. So as a community, what they were doing previously, you were writing papers, your brain was overwhelmed. You know, and though you are able to handle it, it's kind of like you are put on autopilot, right? You are still able to move, you are still able to do, you are still able to work, However, your body's like, no, I need a break. No, I need a vacation. No, I need Minneapolis. No, I need my heart. No, you need all these things that come with that. And that is the community that I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So when we are thinking of the people who love and the people who are in our space and community, we forget too that all these aspects have a self and a bigger mind, right?
That's right.
So if you forgot where that love comes from, you can't even output it.
Or if you were taught that love is not for you.
Right.
So, because like I think that you're disagreeing with me, that critique I think is so important because I don't even think it's necessarily a disagreement. I think it's an enlightening that you're doing right here. I think it's shining the light on the fact that one, I have to recall that being a Black queer person who doesn't fuck with gender, some people were never taught to me. They were taught to hate the me within.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They were taught to hate everything that I experience and know as freedom as something that will collapse their whole entire gender identity.
Yes.
And when you're a young Black boy or a young Black woman or a young Black girl, oftentimes all you have is the stability of your racial gender association. Right? Yes. And me coming in wearing these black nails with these blonde locks, it can still be state boxing champion to beat your ass. Does something to you. And it also reminds you, because if you take it seriously, that I can be a fully functioning Black queer person, assigned male at birth, be successful, make this money, and be loving and caring, and you aren't able to, then that means everything your mother and your father beat into you as a child was for naught. That means at that time you got your ass whooped for playing with a doll or for not being interested in women yet or ever, that means that was abuse. That wasn't love. And so now you got to look at your mama and daddy different just because I decided to show up free. So I become an embodiment of a type of terrorism that completely deflates your identity. You know, so maybe the reality is I do love you, baby, but you don't have the capacity to love me. Because if you love me, that means you must hate me. If you love me, you have to begin to hate the lies that you were fed from a child.
Honey!
And what does that mean about the people that fed you then? And force fed you.
You better stop talking.
You know, and
you
so
better stop talking.
But it also means that, like, right, I have an expansive community, but everyone is not in community with me. I love these like cishet, even these homophobes. I love y'all. You're fine, but like you're not in community with. You can't come to my house.
Right, I know that.
Because you need doors and locks and gates, honey. Before people come eat up everything in your refrigerator.
You better talk.
And that's what it is. Because the people that replenish you, and not just come and eat of you.
I can't. Let me tell y'all. I got a new word of the week. Okay, and that's capacity. Because I will tell you how many times I've heard that. Really. Over the last 2 weeks. That's my new word for the week coming in. It's Tuesday, so I can use it.
You got to make it a phrase. I've been telling people at work, I don't have the current capacity.
Man,
maybe next week.
Just have to use that.
Currently, I don't have the current
just
capacity.
Have to use that. I don't have no capacity. Not the current. I don't have any.
Get away from me.
Let me tell y'all, I am living, okay? And I'm gonna tell you, I am newly living, and I appreciate that because I am coming from a space of I don't know what word to use, low capacity of other beings.
You've been liberated from
I've been liberated.
Play with her today.
So we also going back to this idea of self and how you care about yourself, right? We had a conversation over the word cheating. And we're gonna talk about that culture, right? Because in different cultures, and not saying culture as in like, you know, what you were brought up or anything. I mean, it could be what you brought up as. You should have learned this, you know. But what cheating means to you. So I'm gonna ask you both, what does that word mean to you? Because one, Jay, you're polyamorous. So for other people, what that looks like is cheating. You know, even though you have, you know, a communication between your partners, what that means. You know, for me, I'm not a polyamorous woman. I could be, but I'm not. Under the certainly free loving. I could be free. I am free loving. And what would you say is your definition of cheating, or what do you identify? Do you identify?
Yes, I'm generally non-monogamous, but I am fluid and flexible depending on where I'm at in my life. Okay. I marry no labels.
Your label's black.
Listen, I told you. No, my pronouns
are black.
Right.
Pronouns are black. Okay, that's what we need to know. All right.
Yeah. No. So you're asking how I define cheating?
Yes. If somebody was like, "Oh no, you cheated on me," Like, what would your idea of that be?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's full disclosure. Me and my partner just went through something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my partner is generally someone that is more monogamous inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't need it, but is more inclined. And for me, I've been with people like I was saying before that are more poly and monogamous, very free flowing, do what you want to do. And for them, cheating was about an emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, for them to cheat on me would be that I felt like you were disloyal and you put someone else's needs before mine.
Okay.
And those are related, but very different
Yes.
type of definitions.
Yes.
You know, and so that's something to definitely like navigate through because people have different understandings of what loyalty means.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, did you act with a level of discare for me? And if you didn't, I don't care about you had sex with your kids, the child. As long as they're not in my bed, I'll do that somewhere else. You know, as long as you ain't taken out of our household.
Right.
But I understand that for some people, for my partner in particular, it's about this idea that like the love that you show for me can be shared with someone else, and it's as if that love is being taken, and that's the cheat, right? I didn't ask for you to love this other person.
Okay.
That's not the game that I signed up for, and I understand that. You know?
I think for me, when it comes down to particularly cheating, and as you know, everybody has their own way of navigating that. But one of the things is like, I do avoid words like loyalty. I think it's only because it has the connotation that always makes me go back to a dog or an animal.
Oh Lord.
I also don't necessarily lean on the words committed. And that's and most people, you know, when I hear those words, it really identifies for me the performance you're looking for. I have really situated myself in being probably what is most valuable for me in a relationship has always been be consistent. I don't need your commitment. I don't need your loyalty. I don't need you to behave. I need you to just be consistent. And if this is something that, and it doesn't mean that you can't change.
That's key now. Say that
Okay,
again.
it doesn't mean that you can't change, because that, I think, is where people get things confused.
Yeah.
But what happens when we say words like loyalty and commitment is that we fix our spouses or those even that we are in deep connection with, that in many ways they are fixed on a holistic scale, that they are not supposed to change. They're not gonna change their values. They're not gonna evolve sexually. They're not gonna evolve, with their relationships. They're not going, and that's not what I'm looking for. Consistency for me, when I define it just really fast, is really about making sure that you are present for yourself, so that you also know how to be present for me.
Okay.
So, right, I'm not going to expect flowers from anyone if they've never bought flowers for themselves.
Well,
you cannot do anything, and that's a performance. For me, it's a performance. You stepping in, and somebody's like, "Oh, I bought you flowers." If you don't buy flowers every day, please don't do it.
But it could be for the sense, because like there are some things that you could do for yourself, or that you just would like from somebody else, because it's like not especially performative. But think about relationships in terms of sacrifice too, because there are times where there's things that you
that's another word I don't use.
I know, but I'm going to, because I do believe in sacrifice in terms of how you do things, because there are times where you do be like, you just really don't want to do something, right? But you love somebody.
That's
and
right.
You are like, I really am. And when you think about sacrifice, you think about you have to give up something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's heavy for you, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that's just easy, like, okay, I'm just going to give this up. I wouldn't call that a sacrifice. You're just dealing, right? But to sacrifice in love, that's why I connected to, because I am showing and I'm engaging in this relationship to let you know how far I'm coming somewhere to do this.
That's
or
right.
to be here, right? We like meeting halfway.
Yeah.
So I think that word is like valid when you talk about love, because again, people like misuse love. So
people misuse
I want to
sacrifice.
push
that too. Yeah.
Like, I think that sacrifice has too many negative connotations.
Yeah.
But the reality is sacrifice and investment are the same act. right? So like it doesn't matter if you say sacrifice or investment, because I get what you're saying. You're basically saying that like if I love you, we're in community.
Yeah,
we're doing a thing together.
Right.
So when I give
right.
something for you, I'm giving it to us.
Right.
And I'm expecting in the long run that this is part of the well that we both drink from.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really not a sacrifice; it's a pouring forth.
Correct.
So we can drink together.
Right.
Yeah.
If I give you the lamb, you can slaughter it and cook
See,
it, right?
And that's funny because you said investment. I was like, the only reason why I don't lean on sacrifice is because it challenges capacity.
Okay.
It can compromise your capacity if you were not careful. And this is how this is because a lot of people do get stuck in relationships
Been there.
where they are constantly spilling out. And the people that they are giving out to literally let it fall.
Because that's not love though. I don't
But
think
it's not love. No,
conversation.
definitely not. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like when I look at sacrifice, I'm like, I'm not going to do that in a way where I'm going to put myself in a place where my capacity makes me.
But that's sacrifice only on one end.
Yeah, but that's
and love on one end, right? Yeah. Because like you could really think or really feel that you are trying to convey this to someone, or you're trying to love them, or you feel that you really are, right? But that person is the person who's dropping it and cutting it off. But I think again too, you may be so blinded where you're not seeing it because you do love that person. That's how you get stuck, right? You're thinking that, okay, I'm going to keep putting out there. I'm going to keep showing them that I love them. But then it gets cut off. And then at some point you do take back that and be like, I have the power now. All those sacrifices that I've given, I'm going to re-put into myself.
Can I just say something like controversial though, that like for me, there's no such thing as being in love by yourself. Either you're practicing love together or there's no love. Either you're practicing love together or you're living in a parasitic fantasy.
Okay.
Where like you think you love someone, you can't love someone doesn't love you. You can practice some types of, weird ritual sacrifice that is not investment, right? It's like pouring your money right off this damn 26th floor balcony and hoping it flies back up to you, child.
So it's so
star, but that's not love to me. To me, that is fanaticism. It's obsession, and it's a short-term, oftentimes very short-term moment of lack of self-discernment and lack of self-esteem. We have to snap back.
I will agree. I will agree.
There comes a time when you wake up and you're like, oh, bitch, because love also is a drug. We do know that too, and you get a little high sometimes. You thought this thing was love, but you were just a little infatuated.
Yes, that I definitely agree with that point. I have not thought about it like that. But that is a fact. And if we go back to the soulmate and spirit mate piece of this that we had, this is our last
heard about
show. Yes, and talking about that piece of one-sided being self-love or, not really. I think that we could say, I tread lightly when I say this, okay, that a spirit mate may be the correct term over a soulmate. I do think that if we're talking about that, I think that you could, because and I say that because if I think about a soulmate, I think about the disconnect that you could have with a soulmate versus a spirit mate. It's something that lives within you and that you could have forever, until you're there.
I don't know. We were talking about this earlier. I don't think there's no difference between a soulmate and a spirit mate. I don't difference between the soul and the spirit. They say like the same damn thing to me. But I will say this: I don't believe
theologically that's incorrect. I won't do that now.
That's your word.
For me, I'm not theologically inclined, but regularly, I don't agree with that.
You do Christianity and that type of spirituality. I do voodoo, Ifa, and for us, the soul and the spirit are the same. So I don't know what y'all Christians be talking about, but me and the ancestors, we be talking about
the ancestors.
Okay.
I really like this trio today. I like how different.
I was gonna say though that like I don't really see a difference between soul and spirit, but I also don't like the way that soulmate or spirit mate is conceived. First of all, it's too based in property. It's like you are mine forever. First of all, I've never been yours. I chose to be around you. Let's be clear on that. This is about freedom, not ownership. No matter how much you care about me. And I think secondly, this idea that I don't went on to the upper room or the other side and went on to Wakanda or wherever the hell I'm supposed to go, and I'm still claiming to you, my body gone. How the hell you gonna tell me? I'm here with every other soul that have ever existed through space and time, and I'm stuck with your ass that I met under a certain condition. when I was 21 or 22 or 25 because the traumas I had, the experience I had shit in my mind in a particular way where you were sexy. Baby, I'm free now. Ain't no white supremacy over here.
If there is a spirit mate, you would not be thinking that in this world here because you would be thinking as like, oh, you made it here with me. Like we are still connected.
I would say this. I would be thinking that if there's such a thing as a solar spirit mate, you probably have several hundred of them.
But that's what I said. I mean, like that's my thing. It's like I
don't.
You think it's one? So through space and time, you think the one person that you go connect to is living with you right the hell now?
No, I don't think living with me right. I mean, like on this earth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you know they ain't gone.
They could have did
millions of years.
Because I really think
you might have came back again.
I think my soulmate could have been Edgar Allan Poe. I'm just gonna say that. I have this like weird thing about him. Like I don't know what it is. Like, and it happened a long time ago, and I could be like one of those like little kids.
I think you're just like off.
I like deep down.
I think you're gone.
It's like I'm dark and like, but it's like a happiness though. It's not like the like kind that you see and it's like, I want to wear black. Like no, it's like when I read some of these like forums, they are very, very like disturbing. Yeah. But it like shows me something different, and I think it also helps me to see people different.
Well, I would just say that there's always a big difference between the artist and the thing they create.
Correct. Yes.
Because they work with that thing.
Yes.
Now then, ain't nobody worked on them.
The artist.
Yeah. So
I don't know him as a person.
Yeah, maybe you should talk about his soul.
I was talking about mine. If I just know him from being an artist, his artist was in my life.
Who else was a great artist? R. Kelly.
Well, I don't know about him. The music, yes.
But then we saw the soul.
I don't think I would want to see him.
That's the art. That's the art. That's the music. But his soul is
broken.
Is there a word for it?
No, I don't even think so. I know
a lot of words.
We still trying to.
I have a lot of degrees. I don't know. There's a word.
If they can't find a word for it, it must be missing.
Yeah.
You need to go back to your question. I think this is the way that we need to, because I can also
bring it back.
I think one of the other things that we need to also focus on here too for this moment.
Wait, someone just said somebody was a dinosaur.
Huh?
Sorry, that took me out.
I'm a lot trapped. I can't.
See,
I love you, Justice. Thank you.
Justice.
This is why I don't read the comments.
Wait a minute. This is important. So Justice will love Edgar Allan Poe. Well, when I say Edgar Allan Poe, I mean like my lizard.
Oh yeah. That's the name of
it. Let's bring everybody into this.
Look, I know, because I'm like, okay, so when I just seen, I'm like, oh, she loves Edgar Allan Poe, which is my lizard. So yes. That's why that's her name.
I think the other thing that we have to ask is let's get to the root of the question too around. We've been talking about care, but can we just like dive in further to care about like what brings you pleasure?
Oh.
And I think, and I asked that question not only from our Western standpoint, but what brings us pleasure if we also think about it from the standpoint of the Buddha, and like our world is like, how do we find it? How do we obtain it? How do we experience it? And I'm very curious as to explore, how we achieve pleasure. What brings you pleasure? And I think when you realize that, you're not necessarily always just looking for care. Care can happen in pleasure, but there's something that generates out of pleasure that speaks to, a deeper knowledge of who we are within our body, within our mind. Because and that was what I was going to go with, just to also answer your question that you asked earlier. Like, cheating for me is cheating from the mind. Now, and that's because I deeply believe, like, if you're not thinking about that person, it's over.
Come on with this pastor staccato.
Right?
Build it up.
Like,
build it up. He said from the mind.
Because it will.
He's on his scoot up in that seat like a pastor do.
No, look. And then he put his hand. He's like,
I started looking, making sure with no oil over here. He gonna put on my forehead. My skin is sensitive.
I recently experienced a pleasure that affected my mind. I will say.
Oh, that's a good pleasure. When they go up that spinal cord and get to that brain.
Man, let me tell you. Now I was on the verge. This may sound weird, but I was on the verge of getting a low B in the class, right? And I was working hard trying to ask for extra credit to get a good grade on this test. Like no test or exam that I've taken over the course of this summer class that I received over a 79%. Like I just could not, right? And it was because I was lacking pleasure, right? I was not getting something that I needed that I did not know about, right? I knew about it, but I didn't think that it was something I needed. Yeah. I thought it was just something that I wanted, right? Oh no. Big difference. So I'm gonna talk casual when I say this.
Let's go. This has turned from PG-13 to R just for a few minutes. We need to get this out because we need to help some folks.
So I went out, and I experienced a pleasure so beyond what I can explain.
Oh my God.
That I could not stop thinking about it, okay?
Not you was living in the loop of pleasure.
The loop. Yes. When I heard, even now, if I hear a song that I played during this pleasurable time, I get taken back there. And my legs may shake. Yes. Okay?
All right.
My heart starts throbbing.
You're taking me back to a place.
I might have to take my anxiety pill because I'm like, I need it. Yes. It was like so exhilarating.
Come on.
My body.
Give me Janet, would you mind? Come
when
on.
I tell you my body.
Story know what I'm talking about.
It was titillating.
We talked about this.
Titillating. Look, I gotta sit back because I felt like I just had it. Like
that's your representation, Lord. Oh Lord.
Like it was like something that you just don't think, right?
Yeah.
The next day, Jay can attest to this because he was there when I was taking my test. Well, he was also there at another moment. But
I had to put my headphones on for the pleasure.
I received a 99 on that exam. So, I've been at this. I've been working hard and studying and not getting the grade that I really desired and like really needed to keep up my GPA and where I am at in my life. And to receive that pleasure and to do something so heavy to my mind had me just in a different place of like what I was missing. And man, let me tell you, like when I was taking that test, I got through it so quickly. It felt good. And after I was like, dang.
But let's be real, right? Pleasure in this sense is prophetic.
It really, I'm not gonna even lie. It is.
And I'm not trying to scare y'all with the word prophecy. I'm really being honest that pleasure is a performative action that in many ways can help you secure your best practice.
I'm gonna tell you.
I'm gonna say that again. It's your performative practice.
And you can't be afraid either.
You can't.
Because if you're scared to peak that pleasure, it can be dangerous, but it's definitely beneficial.
And I just want to be clear though, like when we say performative practice, we're not saying something that's fake that you made up.
No,
right.
We're saying your body enacting a particular type of truth that can only be said through the movement of the body, and the tongue itself can utter it. Right? So we're talking about something very, very different here. And I do think there's something about pleasure that does unlock our ability to learn new things about ourselves.
Yes.
And it's prophetic, not in the sense that you might have some visions. Now you might, but it also points to a deeper and better pleasure knowledge of self, right? Places that you can go that you haven't been yet. And also when you get that good titillating pleasure, as we say, it tells you where every other pleasurable experience is going wrong and they haven't hit this height yet and why.
Right.
So I think there's something there. And I think even for me, like when I was doing my PhD, at the end I got really stuck and I'm like, what the hell is that? I know what I want to say. I've been writing this shit for years.
Right.
Can't nobody, it's my theory.
Exactly.
Like, what's going on?
Right.
But again, the pleasure principle is not applied. And I had to go back to my mother, Janet Jackson.
Come on.
Put on the velvet
Janet.
and bring some pleasure back into my household.
Yes.
And when that pleasure was there, I was able to actually really write this work out.
Yes.
And I've realized I cannot create, whether it's scholarly work or whether it's like creative nonfiction or poetry or do any performance work without having pleasure.
Right.
Both in the bedroom, but also intellectually and like artistically.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes I need to hear a good gospel, so I don't even believe in half that stuff.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
I need to hear the power of the voice.
Yes.
Right, and the conviction.
Yes.
Or I need to go to a live open mic and hear people fellowshipping and creating in the moment. That's pleasure too.
Yes.
You know, or look at your niece and nephew laugh and smile.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pleasure.
Yep.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
is.
or your grandma's collard greens. Hallelujah.
Come on, collard greens. I'll take
we
that.
Some good
Justice just said this. So wasn't sex, but I was so trashed from work from an absolutely atrocious year.
Ooh, that's a word.
And I was failing horribly. I still remember when I put on a dress and embraced myself, and it caused a full 180 in my experience. The rest of the year, I can still I still can remember putting on that black dress.
Is that what Aretha said?
Come on.
When I wake up.
Yeah. I put
on my makeup, baby.
Yes.
Okay.
It is that.
Because that's care. And I would say, I don't want to interrupt you,
No,
but I want to say earlier when you were talking about like the difference between care and pleasure, care creates the critical infrastructure for pleasure to thrive.
Teach.
Right?
I'm here for
and
that.
so when people are providing you with care from birth, again, from the womb to the tomb, you're able to explore this infrastructure and figure out where your pleasure principle actually lies.
Yes.
Right? But if you actually don't have a community practice of care, you're not used to receiving care, you don't get to receive pleasure because you're in survival mode.
Right.
Because no one is looking out for you.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all have heard it, and I because I know it's 45. You got to get ready to go. And at the same time, I want to honor the time that we've had with Dr. Anansi Wilson, and I want to just there's a song by an artist, and it's called Mango, by Camus. If I've said that correctly, it's
K was paying that yesterday.
K-A-M-A-U-U. K-A-M-A-U-U. And the title of the song is called Mango. All of the things that we've been talking about, I think, is encompassed in that song.
Yes.
And really understanding our agency and really understanding the technique and the infrastructure that you talked about regarding care and how we should see love. And if I may quote just a part of the verse that says, how we see love as a service. It is never selfish. Love is on purpose. It is never surface. Giving it up doesn't mean you give up.
Right.
Giving it up doesn't mean you give up. And there is something there that I think some of us need to sit with, because in many ways we have been absent. We have decided to, in many ways, kill off parts of ourselves that we need most of all to radically, critically, in many ways, pleasure ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we don't get there, we will lose it. We will lose it. We will lose ourselves because we are not feeding ourselves. We need to nourish ourselves constantly, whether that is water, whether that is food, whether that is being near the water, whether that is sitting on green grass and grounding yourself. We need to get to those places that make us feel most valuable, most grounded, most centered, and most of all, feel that pleasure.
When you don't run away. I mean, Maya Angelou says, love liberates, doesn't hold, doesn't control. It sets you free. And I mean, another good person on love is Toni Morrison. She writes in Beloved when Seth is confronted by her boyfriend, Paul D. Paul D says, Seth, your love is too thick. It's heavy. And he's looking at this kind of this is a cherry tree blossom painted on her back from the whip. Right?
Yes.
When she's like being beaten, been raped by these white kids who trying to steal her milk from her babies.
I remember that.
And Setha turns around to Paul D and she says, you want thin love? Well, thin love ain't no love at all. And I think that's sometimes what people have become accustomed to. It's thin love, right? Both thin love and this idea of falling in love. Toni Morrison says, I never fell in love. I chose to rise into it, right? And so this idea that love is something is an accident. You fell. You didn't think about it. Love is too powerful for you to be falling and tripping. And no, baby, it's intentional. It's intentional. This ain't something you get drunk with. I'm sorry, Beyonce. But it's something that you choose. That you make a study choice every single day. To be with. Love is scholarship. I'm sorry. You know, baby. Because to love someone, you have to become an expert in who they are and
Yes.
who they ain't,
Yes.
and who they want to be.
Yes.
Right? And if you yourself can go the distance with them,
You better
Come on.
maybe sit your ass down somewhere.
Today.
With those child, you know.
This is gonna be my real friend. I'll tell y'all so. What I would say in terms of pleasure to leave with you is that if you can't do it for yourself,
Well,
don't look for it nowhere else.
or in a toy.
That's for yourself.
Come on.
Because I tell you, we know a lot about that.
I hear a toy club. I hear a toy club. Show us
Right.
Don't shake that too hard.
Listen, let me bring
The
it.
toy club is coming out. I think it would be a show and tell one day.
Okay.
Midnight special of Keep Liv'n.
Okay, technologies of caring.
Right. I like that.
Truly. Well, look, we love you. And Justice kick this music. And as you know, I hope you shared this with somebody. It's so
And welcome to your home.
We are here.
You're welcome to
I know. Okay. Love yourself in the process, and may goodness and sexy follow you all the days of your life. This is your host, the Ethical Evangelist. See you next
You're a
Tuesday.
real host.